You think power means being surrounded by people. You think power means being surrounded by people, advisors, allies, friends, smiling faces, nodding along, clapping when you speak, raising glasses when you win. You think the throne is warm. You think the crown is heavy but shared. You're wrong, dead wrong. The higher you climb, the lonelier it gets. Not because you push people away, but because you have to. Because if you don't, you won't survive the fall. And everyone falls, except the ones who build fortresses around themselves, not stone and iron. Silence, distance, strategy. That's the real throne. That's what Machiavelli whispered to princes 500 years ago, and what every CEO, politician, general, and king who still breathes quietly follows today. You want to know why the most powerful people are always alone? Not because they're broken, not because they're cold, because they've read the playbook. And the first rule, trust is a luxury you can't afford when your neck's on the line. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you saw a world leader, a billionaire, a general, laughing freely in a room full of equals? Not staged photos, not press. Conferences? I mean real laughter, real vulnerability, real trust. You haven't? Because it doesn't happen. Not at the top. You think it's sad. Maybe it is. But sadness doesn't keep you alive. Strategy does. Machiavelli didn't write the Prince to teach kindness. He wrote it to teach survival. And survival at that. Level demands isolation, not by accident, by design. Think of it like this. Every person around you is a potential dagger. Smiling doesn't matter. Loyal. Prove it. And even then, don't believe it. Because loyalty shifts. With the wind, with the money, with the threat, with the opportunity. You think, I'm being cynical? Good. Cynicism is the armor of the powerful. Naivety? That's the uniform of the dead. Let's go back. Florence, 1530. A man sits in exile, stripped of power, watching the Medici family tighten their grip on the city he once served. His name, Niccolò Machiavelli. He's not writing philosophy. He's not writing ethics. He's writing a manual, a survival's guide for rulers who don't want to end up in a ditch with a slit throat. And right there in chapter 26, he drops the bomb. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. You've heard it. Everyone quotes it, but no one understands it. It's not about cruelty. It's about control. Love is fickle. Fear is reliable. Love asks for favors. Fear obeys commands. Love whispers behind your back. Fear watches its own back and yours. That's the first brick in the fortress. You don't build walls to keep enemies out. You build them to remind your friends you're not one of them anymore. And here's the twist. The people who rise to power, they know this instinctively. They don't need to read Machiavelli. They live him. Watch any CEO after a major layoff. Watch any president after a scandal. Watch any general after a betrayal. They don't cry in public. They don't rage. They don't explain. They stand alone, silent, unmoved. Not because they're heartless, because showing pain is showing weakness. And weakness, that's an invitation, an opening, a signal to the wolves that dinner served. You think power is about charisma, about speeches, about handshakes and photo ops. No, power is about restraint, about knowing when to speak and when to vanish, about letting silence do the talking, about letting others wonder what you're thinking. Because the moment they think, they know that's the moment they start planning your replacement. Let's talk about Caesar, not the salad. The man. Julius walked into the Senate surrounded by friends, senators, allies, men he'd fought beside, laughed with, shared wine with. And what happened? 23 stab wounds. Brutus, his protege, his son, the man he had trusted most, stabbed him last. Looked him in the eye, did it. You think Caesar didn't see it coming? Maybe he did. Maybe he chose to ignore it. That's the fatal mistake. The moment you believe your own myth that you're untouchable, that loyalty is guaranteed, You're already dead, Machiavelli would have told him. Never sleep in the same room. Twice. Never eat from the same plate. Never trust the man who calls you father. Too late. Always too late. Now, look at modern power. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Putin, Xi Jinping, Biden, Trump. Doesn't matter the ideology. Doesn't matter the country. Doesn't matter. The industry, same pattern. Isolation. Controlled access. Layers of gatekeepers. Why? Because every interaction is a risk. Every conversation is a potential leak. Every friendship a future liability. You think they're paranoid? Good. Paranoia is the tax you pay for staying alive at the top. You think they're lonely? Probably. But loneliness is the price of sovereignty. You want to rule, you rule. Alone. You want friends? Step down. Simple math. And here's what no one tells you. The loneliness isn't imposed. It's chosen deliberately, strategically. You think powerful people are victims of their position? No, they engineered it. They cut ties before ties could cut them. They stopped confiding in spouses after the first leak. They stopped trusting childhood friends after the first betrayal. They stopped sharing dreams after the first time someone used them against them. You think that's sad? Maybe. But ask yourself, would you rather be loved and buried or feared and alive? Machiavelli already answered that 5 centuries ago. Let me give you a modern example. Steve Jobs, genius, absolutely visionary, no doubt, loved by millions, trusted by almost no one. Read his biography, watch the interviews, talk to the people who worked with him. He fired friends, he humiliated allies. He changed his inner circle like socks. Why? Because he knew innovation requires control. Control requires distance. Distance requires sacrifice. He didn't want to be alone. He chose to be, because every time he let someone in, they slowed him down, questioned him, challenged him, until one day they replaced him. 1985 boardroom coup. His own company, his own creation, booted out. And what did he do? Went away, built something else, came back, took over, fired the people who fired him. And then he never let anyone close again. Not even his family knew his full plans. Not even his doctors knew how sick he was until it was too late. That's not tragedy. That's strategy. That's the fortress. You're thinking, but what about the cost, the emotional toll, the isolation, the sleepless nights, the paranoia? Yes, all of it. But here's the brutal truth. Power doesn't care about your mental health. It doesn't care if you're happy. It only cares if you're effective, if you're in control, and if you're unpredictable enough that no one dares move against you. Happiness is for the middle class, or the people who clock out at 5, who hug their kids and forget about work. Power is a 247 war. And in war, you don't get to be soft. You don't get to be open. You don't get to be understood. You get to be feared, respected, obeyed, alone. And yet, here's the irony. The more alone you are, the more powerful you become. Because solitude breeds clarity. Distance breeds objectivity. Silence breeds control. When you're not distracted by opinions, by emotions, by friendships, you see the board more clearly. You make colder, sharper moves. You stop caring about popularity and start caring about legacy, about survival, about dominance. That's why kings don't have best friends. That's why generals don't share battle plans at dinner parties. That's why billionaires don't post their real thoughts on Instagram. They know every word is a weapon, every silence a shield. You want to know the real secret? The most powerful people aren't alone because they failed at relationships. They're alone because they succeeded at strategy. They built fortresses not out of stone, but out of silence, out of restraint, out of ruthless prioritization. They know every person you let in is a potential exit point for your power. So, they don't let anyone in. Not fully, not ever. And that's not weakness. That's the ultimate strength. The strength to choose isolation over vulnerability, to choose control over comfort, to choose survival over everything else. And if you think that's cold, good, it is. But so is the grave, so is betrayal, so is the moment your closest ally hands your secrets to your enemy for a better deal. You think I'm exaggerating? Look around. How many leaders last? How many CEOs stay? How many politicians retire on their own terms? Almost none. The ones who do, the ones still standing there, the ones who learned the lesson early, they stopped trusting. They started watching. They built walls, not to keep the world out, but to keep their power in. And Machiavelli, he didn't just describe this, he prescribed it. He didn't say be cruel, he said be smart. He didn't say be hated, he said be feared, because fear lasts longer than love. He didn't say be lonely, he said be untouchable. And the only way to be untouchable is to be unreachable, unreadable, unpredictable, alone. You still think power is about connection, about influence, about networks. Think again. Power is about subtraction, about removing variables, about eliminating threats, even the ones that smile, especially the ones that smile. The fortress isn't built with bricks. It's built with silence, with distance, with the willingness to stand alone even when everyone else is clapping. And if you're not ready for that, then stay where you are, because the top, it's colder than you think, and emptier and quieter. And that's exactly how they like it. Because here's what they don't tell you. The loneliness isn't the cost of power. It's the foundation. You don't lose people as you rise. You shed them like dead weight, like anchors, like liabilities dressed in loyalty. Every handshake you return, every favor you grant, every secret you share, it's a thread tying you down. And the higher you climb, the more those threads become news. Machiavelli knew this. He watched rulers drown in the affection of their courts, drown in the applause, drown in the illusion that love equals security. He watched them die because they believed their own popularity. He watched them bleed out on marble floors, surrounded by the very men who toasted them the night before. And he wrote, not with sorrow, but with clarity. Men are ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, covetous. Not some of them, all of them, especially the ones closest to you. You think that's harsh? Good. Reality doesn't come wrapped in kindness. It comes wrapped in consequences. And at the top, the consequence of misplaced trust is death or exile or disgrace or a prison cell or a boardroom ambush. Doesn't matter the century, doesn't matter the title. The game hasn't changed. Only the weapons. Back then it was daggers. Now leaked emails, whispered rumors, board votes, shareholder revolts, media hit pieces. Same game, different tools. And the players who survive, they don't play fair, they don't play nice, they play alone. Let's talk about Elizabeth the Virgin Queen. Never married, never had. Children, surrounded by suitors, advisors, nobles, all angling for her. Favor, her hand, her throne. And what did she do? Played them against each other. Flirted, delayed, promised, never delivered. She knew marriage meant vulnerability. An heir meant a rival. A husband meant a co-ruler. So she chose solitude, not out of coldness, out of calculation. She turned her loneliness into leverage, her unmarried status into political power, while kings around her were overthrown by their own wives, sons, brothers. She reigned for 45 years, died alone but on her own terms, in her own bed, still in control, still feared, still untouchable. That's not tragedy. That's mastery. That's the fortress strategy in action. And here's the thing. You don't have to be royalty to use it. CEOs do it, founders do it, generals do it, coaches do it. Anyone who's ever held real power and kept it knows the rule. Proximity is danger. The moment someone feels entitled to your time, your trust, your ear, they start believing they're entitled to your position. And entitlement, that's the seed of betrayal. You think your CFO is loyal until he gets a better offer. You think your VP won't leak your strategy until her ego gets bruised. You think your best friend won't sell your secrets until the price is right. Machiavelli didn't say people are evil, he said. They're self-interested. And self-interest doesn't care about your friendship. It cares about advantage, about survival, about gain. And if betraying you gets them ahead, they'll do it with a smile and a handshake and maybe even tears. You want proof? Look at Sam Bankman-Fried, young, charismatic, surrounded by friends, running a billion-dollar empire, trusted everyone. Open office, open books, open heart. And where is he now? In a federal prison? His best friends testifying against him, his inner circle flipping like pancakes, his reputation ash. Why? Because he believed in collaboration, in transparency, in trust. Noble, maybe. Naive? Absolutely. Machiavelli would have told him, lock the doors, limit access, assume everyone's lying, especially the ones who call you brother. Too late. Always too late. Now let's flip it. Look at Warren Buffett, 90-something. One of the richest men alive, still in control, still respected, still feared. Know what his office looks like? A shoebox? No. Assistants hovering. No entourage. No PR. Team scripting his moves. He answers his own phone, reads his own mail, makes his own calls, and he trusts almost no one with his real thoughts. He plays golf with friends but never discusses deals. He gives interviews but never reveals strategy. He smiles for cameras but his eyes always watching, always calculating. He didn't get rich by being liked. He got rich by being unreadable, by being alone in the room even when the room is full. That's the fortress, not built with money, built with silence, with restraint, with the discipline to never ever let anyone inside your head. And that's the real secret. The fortress isn't physical, it's psychological. It's the ability to sit in a room full of people and feel nothing, to hear a betrayal and show nothing, to receive a threat and respond with stillness. That's the power, not the shouting, not the charisma, not the speeches, the silence, the stillness, the unreadable face. That's what makes people hesitate. That's what makes them wonder. That's what makes them afraid to move against you because they don't know what you know or what you'll do. Uncertainty is your greatest weapon. And solitude? That's where uncertainty is forged. You think powerful people don't have emotions? They do. They just don't show them. Not because they're robots, because emotions are exploitable. Tears, weakness, anger, predictability, joy, distraction, love, vulnerability. Every feeling is a crack in the armor, and at the top, cracks get filled with knives, so they learn to bury it deep behind smiles, behind handshakes, behind silence. You think that's inhuman? Maybe. But so is the world they operate in. You want humanity? Go volunteer. Go. Hug your dog. Go write poetry. Power doesn't reward humanity. It rewards control. And control demands detachment. Here's a truth no one wants to hear. The people who crave connection, they never reach the top. Not really. Not and stay there. Because connection requires compromise. And compromise, that's the beginning of the end. You start listening to advisors. You start pleasing shareholders. You start worrying about public opinion. You start valuing harmony over victory. And then you're no longer leading. You're negotiating. You're no longer ruling. You're managing. And managers get replaced. Leaders, they replace others. But only if they're willing to stand alone. Only if they're willing to make the call no one else will. Only if they're willing to be hated, feared, misunderstood, alone. Look at Churchill, beloved now, hated then after winning. The war voted out. Why? Because he was ruthless, uncompromising, unreadable. People didn't understand him, didn't trust him, didn't like him, but they needed him. And when they didn't need him anymore, they discarded him. He knew It would happen. He didn't cry, didn't beg, didn't campaign. He walked away, alone, because he understood power is rented, not owned, and the rent is paid. In solitude, in sacrifice, in the willingness to be unloved as long as you're necessary. And that's the final layer. The most powerful people aren't just alone. They choose to be misunderstood. They cultivate mystery. They speak in riddles. They delay answers. They vanish for days. They refuse to explain. Why? Because clarity is vulnerability. The moment people think they understand you, they think they can predict you. And the moment they can predict you, they can outmaneuver you. So you stay opaque. You stay distant. You stay silent. You let them guess. Let them whisper. Let them fear what they don't know. That's the real throne, not the chair, not the title, the silence that surrounds you. Machiavelli didn't just say, be feared. He said, avoid being hated. And the way you avoid being hated is by being untouchable, unreachable, unreadable. Not a tyrant, not a monster, just distant, just alone. Because hatred comes from familiarity, from disappointment, from broken promises, from expectations unmet. But awe comes from mystery, from distance, from the unknown. And awe, that's what keeps you safe. That's what keeps you in power. So the next time you see a leader standing alone at the podium, silent, after a scandal, unreadable after a crisis, don't pity them. Don't call them cold. Don't wonder why they have no friends. Understand? They didn't lose. They're friends. They never had them. Not really. Not the way you think. They have allies. They have tools. They have assets, but friends are liabilities. And at the top, you don't collect liabilities. You eliminate them. The fortress isn't built to keep the world out. It's built to keep power in. And the mortar, it's made of silence, of distance, of the willingness to stand alone, even when the world is screaming for you to come down, even when your heart is begging for connection, even when you're tired, even when you're scared, even when you're human. Because power doesn't care if you're human. It only cares if you're in control. And control, that's a solo mission. So ask yourself, do you want to be loved, or do you want to be powerful? Because you can't have both. Not really, not at the top, not and survive. Machiavelli knew it. History proves it, and every person still standing at the summit, they live it every single day. Alone, silent, unmoved, untouchable. That's not a warning. That's an invitation to choose, to understand, to build your own fortress. Not out of fear, out of strategy, out of clarity, out of the ruthless, beautiful understanding that power doesn't belong to the likable. It belongs to the unreadable, the distant, the alone. And if you're ready for that, then welcome to the real game. The one no one talks about. The one played in silence. The one won not with friends, but with fortress.